Hell yeah. Right. Ooh. Far too many windows open. Right. Alright. That should do it. Yeah. Good. Can you join plus? Yes. Indeed. Did I see that Fallout 76 is free? That's too expensive for me. For that game specifically. Oh, I'll have to add you again. Yeah, I know. Free is too expensive for Fallout 76. It's that bad. That's what I'm saying. Are you sure you spelled that right? Did that work? Yes. Okay. Ah, there you are. Is that a group of 6? It is. Fallout 76 is garbage. Garbage. And the reason why there are more free games recently is because coronavirus. That's why. And some companies actually have compassion. I know, it's weird, but some do. So they like to be nice to people. Usually not their employees, though. They'll be nice to their customers, but not necessarily their employees. Because their employees cost them money, their customers get them money, so it's more worthwhile for them to be the nice people that give them more money. Makes more financial sense.
Welcome to Paris. Prepare your
Good.
defenses.
Is that a bit better?
Select your hero.
Let's see, how many echo hours do I have? 146. Okay, good. Hey, Artie.
Personality synchronization,
Ooh.
100%. Good to be
Get
back.
tangled up. Ooh.
Look after yourselves out there. I'll get us home safe.
Moving up.
Attackers incoming.
Are you talking about the perfectly cut scream?
I could
Post.
have used a little more time to get ready.
Flight routine activated. Burning them down.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Ow.
1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Get us home safe. Enemy in my sight.
Excuse me, I'm trimming the fence.
Changing position.
Interesting decision that everyone's made. Just dive off the map. Alright. Cool.
Mobility increasing. System health compromised.
So you watched a documentary about some war stuff. Your teacher was too stupid to change it from 144p to 72060. Was 72060 available, or was it just really old? Yeah. I mean, places that open up too fast will just end up closing down again at some point. So, as long as you follow the rules, and anyone you live with follows the rules, you should be fine. Just because the government's saying one thing doesn't mean you have to do it, right? Necessarily. In terms of that kind of stuff, right? If they're telling you everything's fine, you can go out, and you know that's not true, you can still take the precautions you would if they didn't say that, right? You checked at home now. Was the teacher told that this could be accomplished?
Shot.
And they just didn't do it. She said no.
Boosting up.
Honestly. Did she try to justify her decision to not make the video actually watchable?
Overclocked and on fire.
Wow. So not only was she incompetent, but also lazy. She didn't want to teach the class.
Storing health systems.
She just wanted to go and do her own thing. Alright. Was there an actual meeting she had to go to, or was it just an excuse? Is that what teaching is these days? Stick on a YouTube video, go off and play mobile games in a closet somewhere, come back, dismiss the class.
Mobility increased.
I could do better than that. Probably sat on the toilet and played Raid Shadow Ladins, yeah. While spending all their hard-earned money on microtransactions because that game is incredibly predatory. Okay. I actually like, you know, spreading my knowledge around because it's fun, you know?
Meteor strike.
What what I teach. Depends what I know enough about to teach it. You can make any subject interesting. Anything. Everyone missed it except for me. Because I did it yesterday. Well, it was technically this morning. Because for a good chunk of yesterday I was playing with Alan. A different game. I had about half a level to do this morning to get to that level. And then I carried on because, you know. Yeah, that was a link. So...
Now traveling to Busan. Prepare for battle. Select your hero.
Personality synchronization 100%.
What are you going
Good to be back.
I could, if I really wanted to, I could probably make some rather good educational YouTube content, you know, if I wanted to. I did make my XP video, which now has over 100,000 views. So if I just did that consistently, I'd have a nice successful YouTube channel, right? I just need enough content to do like weekly videos at least, right?
Capture the objective.
Should be easy enough. Make stuff that people actually want to watch. Ah, no. But I have no idea what the subject matter would be. That's the main problem.
Regeneration complete.
Has to be a subject matter that I either know a lot about or can convey a lot about. And it's easy enough for me to learn anything about anything, really. And then just convey it in a video. But it's also the combination of that and a subject that either hasn't been explored a huge amount
Restoring health system.
or hasn't been done sufficiently to actually warrant doing it.
Activating the barrier.
That was a learning experience.
So she's fairly incompetent when it comes to technology, is what you're saying, Klapsy. She needs someone to teach her more about computers, huh? And it's clear, it's unlikely she cares enough about her job to fix that problem, because otherwise she would have done it already.
Hello.
Neural
It's
adaptation.
usually how it is. The good teachers will always be trying to improve what they do in order to better facilitate educating the students effectively. Others are just in it for the paycheck.
I'm taking the objective.
They're just like, oh, it's a good amount of pay, it's not a huge grueling task most of the time. Depends on the students, really. Some kids can be an utter ball ache to deal with.
Learning from that one.
I don't know. It's one of those things. It could be a variety of different factors that's causing them to be not as good as they could be. It might be that they're just not getting paid enough, so they don't feel like their work is worth putting all their effort into. No, I'm level 11113.
Let's shoot for a new high score.
Who knows?
Five, four, three,
Hello there.
two, one. Round two. Capture the objective.
Mobility increased.
Was it for inappropriate behavior? Oh. So, explicitly racist gesture. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
That was a learning experience.
I doubt it was only that, though. There must have been other things that that teacher did that would have raised suspicion.
Repairing internal circuits.
Must have been usually for that kind of thing to be cause for dismissal. It's as part of a series of questionable
That was
decisions
a
and
learning
behaviors.
experience.
So it would have been the final thing they did in a series of bad things, right? Take Walrus, for example. He's done a series of bad things, but it's never gotten to the point where I've decided, yeah, it's time to stop him being here. I feel like, for the most part, as long as I make it clear to him that what he's doing is bad and it can get him permanently banned, he usually backs off. For a while. So, I feel to a certain extent his behavior is under control, despite it being a bit rocky at times. But it may get to the point one day where he just takes it way too far and that'll be the end. I've made it clear to him that it can get there. He's not immune.
Repairing internal
I don't know the inner workings of his mind, right? But I do explain things to him and he behaves like he understands. Whether he actually does, I don't know.
Play of the game.
I think it varies a lot, Manny, from person to person. And from circumstance to circumstance. There are various different types of cheaters, right? Various different types. Some mean to do it from the start, others don't. Our biology is wired not for monogamous relationships, and so our default behavior is not monogamous, which means it'll usually take more willpower than it would to just wake up in the morning and go to sleep at night, right? That doesn't mean cheating is okay, right? If two people have mutually decided they're going to be exclusive to each other and then one person breaks that bond, that's not okay, because it's going against their mutual agreement. some couples decide that they want to have an open relationship where they can be officially a couple, but also fool around outside of their relationship with no guilt. And that's okay for them as well. But a lot of people struggle with impulse control. And those are the kind of people that do end up cheating. And they don't mean to. A lot of them don't go into a relationship thinking, I'm going to cheat. But they end up being in a situation where they're presented with a person of interest that they tend to, through lack of impulse control, take things too far with and end up going somewhere they never intended to be.
My dad cheated on my mum.
And because it's an inherent problem with their character, they can end up doing it over and over and over again, even though they never mean to. Other people, on the other hand, are the type of people that really don't care about their partner, and they just want to have whatever they want, and they lie and deceive and do everything they can to try and get as many partners as they can whenever convenient, because they like the attention, right? They just want to have fun with a member of their sexual preference. Yeah, it's tough. How did that affect you when you found out about that? Axel.
Traveling to Dorado. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Fun times.
Personality synchronization 100%. Good to be back.
Look after yourself out there.
Yeah, day's going well,
I'll
but
get you safe.
I just wanted to make sure I finished my thought
Attackers
first.
incoming in 30 seconds.
Keep to the plan, but be ready to adapt if necessary.
As I told you, there's a lot of companies making their games free for the moment in order to help people get through the quarantine, the lockdown, right? They want to generate some goodwill in their communities in the hopes of making some money at the same time. Are there any examples of companies giving away their entire game, not just their base game, and then hoping their players will get hooked into the game by the extras or the DLC or the microtransactions?
Changing position.
How rude. And what's the premium package for GTA 5? What does that get you?
System reboot complete.
I don't like the moss skin more than the butterfly skin. That's just my preference. I prefer the sort of tree colours, shall we say. The green and the yellow and the stuff. It's more tree themed than the purples and blues of the other one.
Has reached the checkpoint.
Hello, Jenny. What's up? Just here to inspect the room. Make sure everything's in order. Hmm? What? What?
That was a learning
You're here to,
experience.
here to ask me for something. You just have a general whinge. Just having a general whinge. I guess the clouds are going the wrong way. Or something. Am I back at work? Nope. Our government might be incompetent in some areas, but for the moment, they're keeping things on the lockdown for the most part. So, good. They've extended the furlough period, which is the time non-essential businesses will be closed and non-essential workers will be paid, by another 4 months. So, if that logic holds, it's unlikely that we'll open up in any major degree before November. Which is the right move, in my opinion. And then by that point, they'll decide whether they want to extend that further or whether they want to open up again.
Restoring health systems.
1.5 meter is too close. Opening up now is stupid. You're just going to get the second wave of infections and have to close down again. Just bad. It's just bad. It's bad economic sense. It's bad humanitarian sense as well. You're going to cost more people their lives just by doing that. Far too soon.
Learning from that one.
Yeah, you could join. Opening up before we've really made any progress in fighting this virus? Why? It's like walking back into a burning building before the fire's even gone out, right? Why would you do that? You're just gonna have to run straight back out again, else you're gonna get burned.
Nanoboost administered.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
We're doing some chaos today, and tomorrow we'll start on some new Terraria because the expansion's coming out in under 2 hours if my mathematics
System
is
reboot
correct.
complete.
So Terraria tomorrow, chaos today. So there's when did the Netherlands fully open? Because there's probably going to be a lag of a few days to a week before the infection rate starts going back up. About a week ago.
That was a learning experience.
Interesting to see the number of cases per day has started to go up already. Presumably it would have, right, by now. What?
Regeneration complete.
I won't get
Switching
the
back to combat
stats
mode.
after this. Because it'll be interesting to see for the future. for more countries that want to open up, they can look at the stats from the Netherlands to see if it's a good idea to do it yet. And the answer will be no. But proof is always better than speculation. So let's have a look. So you're fairly safe in terms of a bit of an uptick.
That was a learning experience.
We'll see.
Lifting off.
Hi.
Nanoboost administered.
Back online.
Yeah. Any government that actually has at least mildly smart people in charge will agree that now is no time to be opening back up again. The fact that daily active cases are going down is proof that the quarantine is working, right? Not proof that the virus is going away. It takes time for a quarantine to take full effectiveness. And that's why it doesn't suddenly drop. It just slopes down, right? And then eventually it would plateau if you left it long enough. Taking a vacation is not something anyone should be concerned about right now. And what's concerning to me is I saw a report that stated that a certain cruise company in America, I think, opened their bookings back up and saw a 600% increase in bookings. Now you might think, oh, there won't have been many bookings during a pandemic. Yeah, but if you compare that year to year, year to date, it was twice as many bookings as they had the same time the previous year. So not only did they have more than usual than they were getting, but twice as many as the previous year when there wasn't a pandemic. And yeah, cruise ships are not a good place to be when there's a virus on the loose because you have nowhere to go. You're stuck. They're just human petri dishes. You get DPS a lot, Axel. A lot.
Traveling to Horizon Lunar. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Personality synchronization 100%. Good to be back. Mobility increased.
They must be in another part of the base.
I can understand it from a certain perspective, because a cruise might be an invitation to get away from the pandemic and just have a nice time away from all that nonsense. Just leave it all behind. Escapism, right? But what they failed to realize is the virus doesn't care where you are or what you're doing. If it can, it will infect you. Right. Someone brings it with them. Then a large percentage of the manifest will be infected. Just how it works. Yeah, it's just irresponsible. Opening up schools and all that kind of stuff this early on. The house is still on fire. Don't walk back in.
I need to get back in there.
It might be USB, yeah, but it also might just be mechanical faults in the equipment. For the longest time, I've had a problem where once I've used my mouse long enough, and this has happened in many different mice over the years, many different brands, is that the left click will start doing double clicks. When I just click once and it will do a double click. And it's incredibly annoying.
Neural adaptation complete.
And it's a mechanical fault, which is just a result of wear and tear. And although it can be fixed by taking the whole mouse apart and trying to bend things in certain ways, I just generally just buy a new mouse at that point. Because I've usually had it like a year or two at that point. So. Have you tried different USB ports? And,
Switching back to combat mode.
yeah, there's an Echo. It's the character I've been playing for like a month now.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
Internet connection. I'd try getting a USB hub, plugging them into that USB hub and checking a different USB port. If you haven't got enough ports to try different ports, you can use a hub. Nice victory poses there, very good. Otherwise, if that doesn't work, try it on a different computer of some sort. See if that happens on them. Then you'll know whether it's your computer, whether it's the hardware, whether it's the USB ports. Should be able to nail down the issue that way. No, I've never been anywhere near GM. Why would you open up retirement homes? Massive papagas. What about trying a different keyboard to see if that happens with a different keyboard? Any spare keyboards lying around?
Traveling to Nepal. Prepare for battle. Select your hero.
Butterfly clicking. Yeah, well, at least Netherlands isn't #1 in the world, eh?
To be back.
Just setting foot here sets my soul at ease.
Not just the UK, but the US is. Over 1 million active cases now. Not just total cases, active cases.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 1. Capture the objective.
Executing flight
Oh yeah. Trump's never cared about anyone or anything that doesn't affect him personally. which is not a good trait to have in a leader of a powerful country, right? When it involves keeping himself safe and himself healthy, he cares a lot. But outside of that, doesn't really matter. And he wants to open things up quickly because he knows that the performance of the economy will directly influences his chances of re-election, which is what he wants. Because he likes being the boss. Because it helps boost up his incredibly fragile ego. Yeah. I think the UK is in the state that it is, not necessarily because of the actions of the government, which hasn't been great initially, but has been better more recently. But also the general attitude of the population as a whole. The British people tend not to take this thing very seriously as a whole. Some of them are, some of them are not. I've seen plenty of examples of people in my general area just going about as normal. Going to the park, you know, with their sports equipment, just having a bit of, you know, summer fun, even though it's not summer yet, but as soon as the sun's out, they're like, oh, it's summer now. So, you know. Oh, how rude. Alright. But I think one of the problems is the mixed messages that the general public got from the UK government. Originally they were thinking, it's fine, just wash your hands, you'll be fine. Because they treated it like a lot of the other health scares that came around in the past. And the advice there was just wash your hands, you'll be fine. And when it became clear that just washing your hands wasn't going to be anywhere close to good enough, they started changing their tune. But that had prevailed for maybe a month or two before they changed their tune about that. So people were used to, oh, it's no big deal. And what's interesting is even when I first heard about this thing, I think maybe in December or January, I was thinking, doesn't sound that bad. It'll just be a small outbreak like Ebola or whatever. Won't be any kind of big deal. It'll be fine. But no, I was wrong on that. But I recognized that pretty early on. As soon as I heard this thing was spreading like a wildfire, I was thinking, oh, this is not normal.
Best round.
That was a learning experience.
Score 0-1.
But there is an inherent problem with the system we live in, right? In an inherently open and free society, it's very difficult to effectively quarantine people. Because they're so used to being free to go and do what they please, right? Within the bounds of the law, of course. Not for some people, but, you know, for most people. So when you take that and then you suddenly flip it on its head and say, you can't go out, you need to stay home, don't talk to people, don't be around people, it takes a lot of people a lot of effort to not do those things. And some of them think, I'll be fine, it won't affect me, I won't worry about it. There will always be those people that think everything is overblown and not really ever going to affect them in any meaningful way. Some of them are right, but most of them are wrong. But I think what's important to remember is that it's pointless worrying about anything outside your direct control, because that accomplishes nothing. All you can do is make the best of the situation you're presented with. If a lot of people around you aren't taking enough precautions, you take more to compensate, right? That's the only thing you can do. Worrying about the situation that other people aren't taking it seriously, in the end, there's nothing you can do anything about. Just have to make the best of the situation you have. That's it. And I think focusing on that is the best way of dealing with it, in my opinion. Just figuring out the solution to the situation and not worrying about how that situation occurred in the first place.
I need to get back in there.
And I think there, although it is a dangerous virus, I think some people are blowing it out of proportion. They're basically saying that any old people that get it will die, which is in fact not true at all. Sure, a higher percentage of old people do die from it, but at the same time, it's not nowhere near 100%, and nowhere near even 50%. Right? So you have a better chance of surviving than dying from this thing. In the vast majority of cases. Sure, there's always a chance. There always is, no matter who you are. But vast majority of the entire world's population are unlikely to die from it. My friend in Indonesia, and he told you more kids have died than elder people. From what I've heard, the virus tends to go somewhat it tends to affect young people much milder than older people. The actual mechanisms of how that works is not understood yet, why that occurs. But it's certainly possible that different strains of the virus have cropped up here and there, and some are more serious than others, and some affect younger people more than others. It was discovered, I think, about a month back that the strain that started in Wuhan is different to the strain that's running across America. The one running across America is actually much more infectious than the one that started in Wuhan. So we know for a fact this thing has already mutated at least once. So it might have already mutated several more times. And that research is several months old already. So, yeah. The science is not ahead of this thing yet at all. Still running far behind this thing. So it's going to take a while to catch up and overtake. And only once we overtake the virus in terms of the understanding and the science will we start to be able to figure this out and fix it. And that's still going to take a while.
Personality synchronization 100%.
And it's possible that a vaccine they come up with will be for a strain that's already run its course or only affects a certain area of the world, and so that vaccine will be ineffective for another portion of the world where they'll need to figure out another way of fixing it. Because the more people this thing infects, the higher chance we'll end up with multiple strains that will respond differently to the body and to the vaccines they come up with. Right?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So there may not end up being a magic cure-all solution that they come up with one day and roll out and job done. It may not be anywhere near as simple as that. It might be. It depends on how much the virus itself mutates and how it responds to the eventual vaccine they come up with. But who knows, really? It's only something we have to take as we go. There's no magic bullet solution it's going to suddenly come up with and then fine and dandy, we're all done. It's not going to work that way. The coronavirus may end up being something like a seasonal flu where it comes around every year in a different form that we haven't got the cure for, and all we can give you is last year's vaccine, which will hopefully help you deal with it a little better but not cure it entirely.
I could push if that would help.
Who knows?
Changing position. Boop, boop.
Yeah, well, what Trump wants and what Trump gets is not the same thing.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Hi there, Jaxie. Echo hours at the moment, 146.
System reboot complete.
This is not a movie. There is no happy ending at the end. There is no end. It just keeps going. Right? There will always be more to come in terms of everything. And just because we're in a one in a century outbreak event doesn't mean it can't happen in a few years' time. All over again. It could. Yeah. Well, if you work with the assumption that everything that Trump does is to inflate his own ego and make himself feel like the big man and the best there is, and you know, that kind of thing, then all of his actions make sense, right? If you view everything from that context, which seems to be an accurate context to view everything that he does, it all makes sense, right? He's just trying to make himself look like the best, right? Trying to inflate his own ego and make himself seem like the indispensable old man that he thinks he is, right? And I think in the grand scheme of things, in reality, what he is a guy that has failed at everything he's ever done in any meaningful way and is desperately trying to make himself out to be a success. But continuously, over and over and over and over again, throughout his entire life, he's failed at being a success. The only thing he's ever succeeded in is winning the election for president. So he's desperately trying to make it a success, right? He's trying to make the most of what he's got. And all he's ended up doing is making a fool of himself every single day of his presidency. Not only that, but taking a lot of people with him. He's done untold amounts of damage to the country of America and its reputation worldwide. And
Neural adaptation complete.
all to just inflate his own ego and make it make himself feel like he's accomplished something. And the sad thing is, he is so invested in it, he actually believes his own nonsense. He thinks he's doing a good job. Because he's so determined to make that true, he's convinced himself of it, even though it's completely false.
I need to get back in there.
10 seconds.
The battle draws to its conclusion. We must attack.
Yeah, I really don't know whether he'll win a re-election. His opponent is probably one of the weakest candidates I've ever seen to go up against an incumbent president. But even that may not be enough to get him re-elected, right? So I really don't know. It could go either way.
Par excellence.
Could go either way. It really depends what happens all the way up to November. So we still got 6 months, well, less than 6 months now, but 5.5 months of stuff that could happen that could swing it either way. So, yeah, I have no idea. His opponent Biden may end up just getting replaced before the election and end up being someone else entirely to try and shore up the Democratic support, because Biden is just a bumbling old man that doesn't really know where he is half the time, which is not really a very strong position to go up against Trump with, so... Yeah. American politics is just an utter mess. An utter mess.
Select your hero.
There is a small chance that in the November elections, Democrats can regain control of the Senate. And if that happens, and they can keep control of the House, they can basically take Trump's power away from him by just denying anything he tries to pass.
Personality synchronization 100%.
So you could basically neuter his second term if he did win a second term, which would certainly be an improvement. It wouldn't be a step in the right direction, but it would be a somewhat prevention of more steps in the wrong direction. It would be a suppressor. You couldn't completely prevent him from doing more damage, but you could certainly mitigate it a lot if Democrats are able to take control of both the House and the Senate. Then they'll have the power to stop his more dangerous ideas. I don't know if I'm the right person to be president, or person in charge type of thing. I'm the type of person that wants the right thing done, right? I can recognize what is the right thing and what isn't. But I don't know how right I am. That's the problem. Right? I might have these grand ideas about what needs to happen, but
Adjusting angle of attack.
I can be wrong.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Boosting up.
Our enemy returns.
Nim. Neural adaptation complete. Going free.
Oh yeah. Healthcare has been a big problem for a long time in America. Because it's been profit driven for so long, it's difficult to change. Very difficult, especially since money controls so much in American politics these days. The moneyed interests make sure they continue to have control in the system, time and time and time again. because they have control, they keep it. And that control becomes more and more and more prevalent as time goes on. It's gotten to the point these days that the politicians with the big companies backing them tend to win the vast majority of the time.
Learning from that one.
Because money is speech.
Lifting off.
The more money you have, the louder your megaphone is. The louder you can shout over everyone else and say, I'm the guy you want. Drown out everyone that has a more nuanced approach. People that actually have the right ideas are drowned out by people that say me, 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 me. And that's all the general population here. Right. Generally what people do when they go to the ballot box is they make a mark next to the name they recognize the most. That's how the general population votes. There are more informed people that tend to do the research and look into the candidates that agree most with their opinions and vote that way. But those people are in the minority, not the majority. Most people will go to the ballot box and just check whatever name they are most familiar with. Right? And that's one of the bigger problems with politics in general, with the democratic system.
Regeneration complete.
It's
Switching back
most
to
of the time it's not about a contest of ideas. Instead, it's just a popularity contest. And that's not a way to run a country. I don't know if there's a good solution for it though.
Almost ready.
Yeah, it's... I think it would be difficult, if not impossible, to design a system where... I don't think it would be impossible, but it would be very difficult to design a system that runs on a contest of ideas. It's possible that potentially instead of voting for candidates, you're voting for ideas, and then the candidate that best represents those ideas then becomes the candidate to implement them. That way you take the human equation out of it entirely and just run on ideas themselves. I don't know how easy that would be to implement though, or if there's even a valid solution for that. Private healthcare does not make sense. It's not the right way to go, because when you've got private healthcare, you're incentivizing sickness for profit. Right? So generally what will happen is hospitals will keep people longer than they need to be kept in order to make more money and use more resources on each person when they don't necessarily need to. With a public healthcare system, you're incentivizing fast recovery in order to service the most number of people you can in the most cost-effective manner you can, which is why the NHS, which is a publicly funded healthcare scheme with publicly funded hospitals, publicly funded doctors, is one of the best healthcare systems in the world, because it prioritizes healthcare above all else, right? It prioritizes making people better as fast and efficiently as they can, right? Sure, no system is perfect, but I think a system designed to make sure people are being taken care of as quickly and efficiently as possible is the right system to use, right? The American healthcare system means that if you don't have money, you don't get healthcare, you die, and that's a problem for the economy, and not just the health cost in terms of the people dying, but also the economy suffers as a result because it's got less workers because they're either sick, disabled, or dead. Right? That's a problem. So the people that don't have the money, they suffer, and the economy that they serve suffers as well. So generally what that means is the lower ends of the economy are more damaged in general than the higher ends over time, all the time, right? Middle class, they might be able to afford most treatments, but the higher end treatments they're going to struggle with, things like cancer. Yeah, they're going to struggle with that. That's very expensive. It's likely that some people will opt to try and just carry on as normal and do the best they can because they just can't afford healthcare, and that doesn't work. They end up being less productive, and they end up costing the economy more money. So I'm talking about from an economic perspective because I think that's important when you consider that the argument for keeping it the way it is it helps the economy, right? When in fact it doesn't. It does the exact opposite. Keep it... They think, oh yeah, if you keep it like that, then the companies will compete and the prices will go down because of friendly competition. But no, they make deals together to make more money instead. That's a problem. Price gouging is a thing because insurance companies like to make money, hospitals like to make money, so they make agreements together to make even more money. So the hospitals raise their price way higher, so the insurance companies can raise their prices way higher, and they both make more money. When in fact the actual cost is way down here, right? So all you're doing in that system is profiteering. So the system ends up being a system that is built on profit, not on actually helping people, which is what it's meant to be doing. Yeah, it's incredibly immoral. The American healthcare system is immoral. Making money from sick and dying people is not moral in the slightest. Profiteering of people that cannot help but pay you money should not happen at all. It's not okay.
Learning from that one.
And I'm astonished by the number of people that defend that kind of system that makes money off sick and dying people. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting that that system can exist for that long.
Objective lost. New defense point.
And yeah, a lot of politicians are politicians because they want power. They don't care about actually helping people. They just say that stuff to get the power. They like to be in a position of power, and they'll say and do anything to get it. I think a prime example recently in the US Democratic primaries of that kind of person was... what was his name? The young guy that got fairly far and won the name. Pete Buttigieg. Yeah, Pete Buttigieg was a prime example of a slimy politician. It's clear from the start he was the kind of guy that would say and do anything to get more votes, but didn't mean any of it. There was clear examples of him doing that on many, many occasions, where he was saying something just to get more people to like him. And then later down the line, he'd completely change his tune and then lie about ever supporting that idea in the first place. So, yeah. And he just had an aura of snobbishness and superiority, just following him wherever he went.
Update. Target destroyed.
And the saddest part of the whole thing was the guy that was genuinely trying to help people his entire life managed to fail to win the nomination, not once, but twice. Simply because he was trying to play by the rules he thought should exist. By playing fair, treating everyone with respect, and not taking corrupt money. And although his approach was flawed, he had the right idea. Running on the issues that mattered to people with the right ideas in the right way. He just went about it wrong. I think Bernie would have been the right choice, was the right choice in 2016. He was the right choice in 2020. But in the end, he made some mistakes and didn't end up winning either race. So I think in the end, he put politeness above the need to win. He was too polite, he was too nice, and he didn't hit his opponents where it hurt in order to ensure he won. He put his politeness and his niceness ahead of the importance of actually winning. And that's what lost him the nomination both times. He kept calling his opponents his friend, and he never really hit them where it really hurt. Sometimes you have to break eggs to make an omelette, right? And I think he was too shy to actually throw those punches, right? Sometimes you just have to. You can't be nice all the time. And I think in the grand scheme of things, people were just disappointed in him for not doing that, for not going hard enough against his opponents to actually hit them where it hurt and actually make a dent in people's opinion of him. Because in the end, in order to make sure his agenda got done, he needed to be the one to do it. And he was just too...
Personality synchronization 100%.
He was too nice. He was too nice to make that actually happen. And it's so annoying. You need someone who has the right ideas that actually can fight hard enough to do it. And will actually take those hard choices and potentially do damage to personal relations with those friends in order to actually accomplish what you want to do. And I think most of the time, if you're running against your friend, they're going to be smart enough to understand, hopefully, that any attacks you throw at them are an attempt to win and not personal attacks, right? That your friendship can survive such a thing. And if they're your friend, they're really your friend, you'll understand that they'll be happy for you if you win, and you'll be happy for them if they win, right? In the end, that's what's going to happen. If they're really your friend, then it's okay to throw some shade at them if you really truly believe that you have the better platform. And a lot of friends will throw shade at each other anyway, casually, with nothing to gain, just for a, a bit of a laugh. So I don't see what the point in trying to hold back so much when there's literal lives on the line, right? Bernie's ideas could have saved so many lives, and yet he didn't fight hard enough to make sure that happened. I think that's the thing I'm most disappointed in him about. The fact that he was talking about the fact that the systems he wanted to overturn were costing lives every single day, every single year. And he just didn't fight hard enough to make sure that happened. And because he didn't fight hard enough, more people will die. So I think he didn't really, truly do a proper cost-benefit analysis of going on the offensive more, actually hitting his opponents where it hurt. Because a few hurt feelings in exchange for tens of thousands of lives per year is a very good deal, in my opinion. That's a bargain. Right. That's a bargain. Yeah. And I hear you.
Learning from that one.
Trump deserves to be humiliated. Badly. But I don't think there's any chance of him getting totally destroyed. It won't happen. If he loses, it will be barely. And just like happened 4 years ago, he will complain, rigged, rigged, rigged. Even though 4 years ago he still won, right? 3 years ago. He still won, but he still complained. So if he loses, he'll complain even more that it was rigged and everything was against him, and this or that went wrong, and collusion and all this kind of nonsense. Right. A conspiracy against me to remove me from power. He'll make every single excuse he can come up with and more why he didn't win. And it will never ever be his fault.
Regeneration complete. Switching back to combat.
The only way you could stop that from happening as much, although it will still happen, is by absolutely destroying him in the election. Which is something that probably, definitely, maybe 90% sure will not happen, right? There are no candidates currently available to destroy him that much. I don't think even someone like Bernie could have destroyed him as much as he could have been destroyed, in theory.
System reboot complete.
Bernie would have definitely won, I think.
Going free.
maybe 95% chance. That's it. By the time the election came around. But I don't think he would ever destroy Trump. Unless you get the combination of the pandemic and the economy just completely wrecking the country. And people end up blaming Trump. If that happened, then yeah, you could probably get a scenario where he gets absolutely destroyed in the general. But if you couple that with a very weak candidate on the other side, it may not even be enough for him to lose even then.
Routing power to forward shield.
Score 1-0.
Yeah. There's no clear
Nothing I haven't seen before.
idea of what's going to happen in November. I really don't know. It could go anyway, really. It really depends on what happens with the pandemic, what happens with the economy in terms of the country and the globe as a whole. And who knows, there might be some other disaster that somehow turns up in this year. That ends up influencing things. Hopefully not. We've already got a big enough disaster on our hands. We don't need another one, but who knows? Who knows? Anything could happen.
Executing flight maneuvers.
Routing power to forward.
Yeah, I think the biggest impact at the moment, the longest lasting impact of his legacy will be his inaction and complete incompetence when it comes to climate change mitigation. The fact that he's done absolutely nothing and potentially made some very negative progress in controlling the impact of climate change. That's going to have a long-lasting impact. And a second term will make it probably about 10 times worse, even though it's the exact same amount of time. Because the longer you delay, the harder it is to catch up. And it becomes more and more and more difficult as time goes on. So, yeah. And even if Trump wasn't in charge, even if it was Bernie, I still think that global action on climate change will still not have been anywhere near as enough. Even with someone actually competent in charge, trying to lead the way, lead the global effort against it, the ship's too big to turn that fast. Things don't turn around that quickly. They never do. In my non-expert opinion, what I foresee happening, by what has happened so far, is that we're going to blow past the 1.5 degree mark, warming mark. We're going to blow past the 2 degree warming mark. There's going to be irreparable damage to the world, the ecosystem. We're going to have huge numbers of animal populations going extinct, irreparably. And eventually we're going to have to employ some pretty extreme measures to cool the planet back down. Probably the easiest and cheapest method of doing that, with the simplest way of reversing it, would be solar shades in space. Basically, shoving a load of material in between us and the sun in order to reduce the amount of sunlight hitting the Earth.
I'm on fire.
That's going to be expensive. That's going to cost a lot of money and take a lot of time to implement. But I think the only other way you could do something like that is pollute the atmosphere with tons of reflective material, which is more difficult to reverse when the time comes. That's probably cheaper and faster, but it's less easily reversible, right? It's a more permanent change that could cause more problems down the line. But with the advancements that SpaceX has made recently with their renewable space program, deploying enough solar shades to make a meaningful impact on the amount of sunlight that's hitting the Earth and lowering the amount of energy hitting the Earth will make it stop warming so quickly and maybe cool it down. That's something that's a lot more affordable these days than it was. So, in short, countries and companies will not move fast enough to mitigate the worst of the climate change impact. We're going to flounder about trying to find solutions for a few years. We might eventually come up with a good solution that will actually fix the problem in terms of actual warming, but there will be irreparable damage created by that point. And it may take many decades to recover fully. So, yeah. Not good news for this century going forward. But I think in the end, this kind of global disaster, which will become more and more and more apparent as time goes on, may yield more positive results in terms of global cooperation going forward. You should get an update for Terraria in about half an hour, if my mathematics is correct. So, if you think you've seen some pretty bad weather extremes lately, it's only going to get worse for at least the next decade or two before it gets better. That would be my guess, based on global trends. It's somewhat of a pessimistic view, but I feel like it's a more realistic view than hoping that everything will be fine. Because it's clear that we've known about this stuff since the 70s or 80s, maybe even earlier, and have not done anything until very recently, which is already far too late to mitigate some of the start of the worst of it, right? Now, this doesn't mean the end of humanity or anything like that. It'll just mean some pretty severe side effects for a few decades while we sort stuff out. And it will cause a lot of pretty extreme weather events which will kill a lot of people, displace a lot of people, and hurt the poor much more than the rich. But at the same time, I think it will accelerate technological progress in certain areas, which will eventually benefit humanity pretty well. So I think it will be the rebellious teenage years of the human race, right? Where we make a lot of mistakes, but in the end, come out better as a result. I don't know what kind of post-apocalyptic society we'll end up living in, but we'll see, won't we? We'll see. And it's not any kind of blockbuster apocalypse, right? It's a very slow-burning kind of thing that will just happen over time, and yeah, we'll just kind of get used to it as it happens, right? And then we'll come up with some fanciful solution that will end up making things better overall.
It is overdue for a new test.
So yeah, the climate change situation is a very slow apocalypse that in the end doesn't destroy the human race. It just makes them more aware that their actions have consequences and they need to be more careful in the future. That's generally what it means, right?
Minimize errors. Adapt to changing battlefield conditions. And good luck.
Now, an alternative solution to the crisis is just to pretend it doesn't exist and escape into some virtual utopia that we've created, which is one of the possible futures. Then instead of fixing the problem, we ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist by covering up the solution entirely.
System reboot
Just
complete.
brush it under the rug and call it done. Now that's the solution that companies have used for many years, many decades. They continue to brush it under the rug and leave it for the next generation to sort out. But at the moment, it's our turn to actually do something about it because it's getting a bit too late to brush it under the rug continually.
Regeneration complete. Switching
And
back to combat mode. Mobility increased.
I still don't think people are awake enough that are in charge to do actual good stuff about it. They're not doing enough. Nowhere near enough. If you do some basic mathematics, you'll find that the amount of change that has to happen is too much to actually happen. Without drastic changes in laws and regulations, that just won't happen because they take too long to implement.
Lifting off.
So generally what happens is politicians talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, both because moneyed interests convince them not to, plus the fact that it would be too difficult to actually implement the solutions that they admit they need to implement.
Online.
Hello there.
So it's just not going to happen.
Everyone get on incoming.
Executing flight maneuvers. Cease your resistance.
Hello, Dave.
Hello. Did I make you jump or something? How many hours on my account? 9580.
Neural adaptation complete. Going through.
Hopefully our food science advances fast enough for us to be able to survive on food created entirely in labs. Because eventually,
Online.
if we don't take action soon enough, our entire ecology could collapse.
60 seconds.
And the only way of creating food will be artificially.
Moving up.
And our only way of recycling carbon dioxide will be artificially.
Mobility increased.
Which can be done. The technology does exist to do that. It's currently quite expensive to do it. And governments would have to subsidize companies that want to do that kind of stuff heavily in order to actually be profitable.
Taking off.
Or even make any kind of money whatsoever. So there is a scenario where humanity kills itself through sheer incompetence and greed. But I think in the end, when it's time to face the music for real, we'll come up with a solution where we can continue doing stupid stuff for many years to come. Without doing enough stupid stuff to stop existing entirely. Oh yeah, it's always too late. Every single solution is always implemented too late to save lives. I was watching a video today about an aeroplane disaster, which ended up pretty well, but still ended up killing about a third of the occupants of the plane. What ended up happening is the tail engine of the plane ended up exploding because of a manufacturing fault that over time got worse and worse and worse and eventually led to critical failure of the engine. That ended up cutting all the hydraulics of the plane, and so they couldn't control the plane in any meaningful way apart from throttling the engines differently to move left and right and keep the plane level. That's all they could do, essentially. Now, eventually the crew managed to work together in a very efficient, very, very successful way and ended up crashing the plane into a runway, and managed 2/3 of the people on board managed to survive, including all the pilots. Which wouldn't have happened if they hadn't had extensive crew training on how to work together efficiently. Which would be nice for the entire planet. Then we wouldn't be in this mess to begin with. But, aside from that, essentially what happened is that design flaw that basically allowed it so that the tail engine exploding could cut all the hydraulics, and then all the hydraulic fluid leaks out and they don't have any hydraulics anymore. They then came up with a solution where if that event would ever occur again, that all the hydraulic fluid would not leak out of the system, it would just leak out of the parts that were damaged. So they put some, basically, what they call hydraulic fuses in there to make sure that any compromised hydraulic tubes would not result in entire failure of the hydraulic system, right? Now, they'd been smart enough to create a triple redundant hydraulic system, but also at the same time dumb enough to make all those hydraulic tubes go within blast radius of the rear engine. Now, admittedly, the things that cut the pipes to the hydraulics were shrapnel from the exploding engine, which could have very well not hit the hydraulics. So it was rather a fluke of the circumstances at the time, ended up cutting all the hydraulic pipes at once. But still, they had to learn that lesson the hard way in order to design a better system that has redundancies. Right. So, and that happens a lot. Generally, a system that has flaws in it will only get fixed once it goes catastrophically wrong. And unfortunately, that probably applies to the environment as well. Right, our planet. Things will have to go catastrophically wrong with the atmosphere in order for us to fix it. And we can see the warning signs already, and yet they're still not doing anything about it. I guess enough people just haven't died yet. It hasn't affected the richest of the people yet. And that's usually what has to happen. The people with all the money, if they start losing money because of something going wrong, only then are they incentivized to actually fix it. That's usually why these things take so long to fix. Because most of the time they don't affect the rich people, the people with the money and the influence to actually make the changes that are needed. Yeah, the 1%. So only once the 1% are starting to be seriously impacted by climate change are we going to see some drastic action to fix it. And that's going to take a long time. Now, we might see a little bit of action here, a little bit of action there, just to save face, just to make it seem like they're doing something, when in reality, they're really not. It's just publicity stunt, right?
Traveling to Hawaii.
So,
Prepare to attack.
just disappointing all around, really. That the people not at the top 1% of society will suffer for many, many decades before anything will be done to stop it. Because in the end, the people with the money are the people with the power, and the people with the power make the decisions that affect everyone. Which is not at all fair.
Personality synchronization 100%. Good to be back.
100% of the people are influenced by 1% of the people. Their lives
Commences in 30 seconds.
and the quality of their lives are determined by the 1%. Even though you call it a democracy, and it looks like a democracy, it's really not.
You need to come on your eyes to know yourself is to be at peace.
For your safety, please move behind the barrier.
And I don't know if there's a real solution for that. There might not be. It might be an unsolvable problem. You might forever be in that situation where you just have to hope that the people at the top make the right decisions that help you in your daily life. And the only control you have over that is voting for the people you think have the best chance of making your life better. And you have no real way of knowing whether they'll actually do what they say they're going to do. You just have to trust it. Yeah. It's an illusion of choice. But it's all we got. That's all we got. It's the best we have. And as I said earlier, there's really no point worrying about it because there's nothing we can do to fix it. All we can do is make the best of what we got. So, just have to figure it out as we go, right? Not much we can do about it. If opportunities present themselves to actually make a difference, then we'll do what we can, right? Other people. But the vast majority of the time,
Moving up.
we just go where the tide goes.
My ultimate is ready.
Overall,
Back online.
I'm not like overly depressed about the future. I'm excited. I want to see where these things go. I want to see how things develop. Because no matter what, it'll be interesting. Right?
Hang on, stop. As is my function.
Regeneration complete. Switching back to combat.
And whatever world I live in, I can still enjoy my experience living it. So it doesn't really change what shape it takes.
Stabilizing system core.
I don't know. Elon Musk is doing some interesting things, but he's also doing some very face-palmy things as well. His attitude towards the pandemic is severely face-palm and very disappointing. Thanks, Twisty Twig. The fact that he's downplaying the entire thing and just trying to reopen everything that he has control of, and trying to make it out like it's all blown out of proportion and no big deal.
That was a learning experience.
I unfollowed him. I had a lot of respect for him at one point, but his recent comments on the whole pandemic has really just destroyed my my appreciation of him, really. I recognise that a lot of stuff he's done is good, that he's advanced a lot of industries in the right direction, but he has streaks of being not a nice person at times. And yeah, no one's perfect, everyone makes mistakes, but try not to do it in public.
Learning from that one.
When you're doing something as public as tweeting on a platform that will have millions of views, you better make sure that what you're tweeting makes sense and is actually factually accurate.
30 seconds remaining.
So otherwise you're going to make yourself look like a fool. And potentially worse.
Learning from that one.
Someone get the payload.
10 seconds remaining.
So yeah, some of the stuff I really appreciate him doing, because someone had to do it. Reusable space program, absolutely necessary. We need that. Self-driving cars, also no-brainer. Very important for the future of transportation in general, because it vastly improves safety. Right. There's really no need for humans to be in control of potentially lethal weapons in the form of cars. Right. Humans should not be in control of heavy machinery. That includes cars and heavy goods vehicles and trains and planes and all of that kind of stuff. Humans are fallible, they make mistakes. Machines should be in control, they can be programmed correctly to always do the right thing, to make the right choices, and always execute their jobs as intended. Right. Neuralink is a natural evolution of the human race.
Break time, Dave?
We've been integrating with technology for many decades, many hundreds of years. It's a natural progression to move that into the brain in order to minimize the input delay that we're currently experiencing. Right? It takes time for me to push a button and then for that action to appear on whatever device I'm using. Right? Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to BRB. And then we'll carry on after the break. Okay. So we're down a player, right? Ooh. Why does it keep wanting to restart but then doesn't? My laptop keeps having that icon, the Windows update icon that's like, hey, you need to restart. When I mouse over it, it disappears, like it was never there. When's this update coming out then? It's I don't know if the update's actually out yet.
It's out at 6 o'clock.
Is it 6 o'clock, is it?
Yep.
Why does it say that?
There's someone streaming it, and it's literally 2 hours left until it comes out.
Okay. That's fair. So it would come out, if I was doing it today, it would come out at the same time that I need to switch to it. So, yeah, that's pretty immediate. So yeah, better if start that tomorrow. Yes, okay, I need to do the level up thing. Yeah. Okay, yeah, 6 o'clock. Alright. Hey, Lucas. All right.
Our world is worth fighting for.
Double kill.
I have located the enemy. Echo here. Know your place.
Level up.
There we go. Sometimes when I hit the button, it doesn't actually do it.
Double kill.
我不是要针对你，别往心里去。
Double kill.
Out cold.
You want to play? You don't have to play anything necessarily. You can just stare at the wall for a couple hours. That's fun, right?
Register at your service.
Double kill. Triple kill.
Wow, 真好玩。Amazing. 送不了我饭。
Oh.
Now traveling to Busan. Prepare for battle. Select your hero.
Mobility synchronization 100%. Good to be back.
So,
Greetings.
looks like Diva's a bit of a slob. Look at this. Three empty pots of noodles just left there. 2 cans of drink.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Didn't tidy up after herself.
round 1. Capture the objective.
Executing flight maneuvers.
Ooh.
The objective.
Adjusting angle of attack.
Why not? Will you bike a bit? Okay.
I'm taking the
Weeby.
objective. Wondering how everyone else is. That was a learning experience. Boosting up. Loading them down.
Yeah, the mask on.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Road hull. That was a learning. Ladies and gentlemen. Target destroyed.
I like how Batman's mask is like the opposite of what you need to protect yourself.
In case you were wondering,
The only part that's not covered is his nose and mouth. Right? Da-da-da. The bottom of his nose and his mouth, right? Ow.
learning from that one.
First round lost.
We are in harmony.
Stick to the plan. And if you get into trouble, I'll bail you out.
Uh-huh.
5, 4, 3,
It's Valorant now, it's gross.
1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
Moving up.
But yeah, good job.
The objective is now active.
System reboot complete.
Oh, the second number deaths and the third one assists. It's just.
I am taking the objective.
Right.
Report in position.
Close game then.
Adjusting angle of attack.
Assists. No.
Neural adaptation complete. Double confirmed. Repairing internal circuitry. Changing position.
Oh no.
That was a learning experience. Ability increasing.
Is there yet?
Beginning objective capture circuits engaged. Roadhog.
Ow. How rude. Bob just fell off the level. They still won though. By a lot. If the name is said at all, the name of the game would be It All. But it's not. Oh yeah, me too, Venom. Yeah. I think the PvE will be a great change of pace and one that can be made permanently rather than temporary. Right. At the moment, we only get temporary PvE. If you're not counting Play vs AI, which is pretty trash. Yeah, permanent PvE modes, not one but two, would be very nice to have in my Overwatch. Yes. Someone's not picking a role. Oh, there we go. I think I prefer PvE to PvP because PvE is more strategic than PvP. The kind of strategy that I like anyway. Yeah, PvP can be strategic, but it tends to only be strategic at the highest levels of play, which I'm definitely not, right?
Personality synchronization 100%. Good to be back.
But with PvE, it's very formulaic. You understand what the enemies do, what they don't do. You can understand their behaviors. You can understand how to manipulate their behaviors to your favor. It's much more interesting in that regard, right? So it's much more controllable in terms of whether you succeed or fail. It's much more down to you and your teamwork than it is the enemy team, because the enemy team is set in their ways. They have set behaviors that you learn to counteract in the best way you know how. And there's no surprises there, right? And yeah, the Overwatch universe is interesting, right? And they do a really good job of telling the story that they want to tell. And exploring that by several orders of magnitude more, alright, with the story mode, will be definitely a welcome addition. Actually exploring the story within the game, rather than outside the game, which has been the case since we've known about it so far.
Regeneration complete.
Guitar Hero. Well, Guitar Hero is Activision, right? And Activision Blizzard, so... It's within the realm of possibility, but I think it's pretty far on the outskirts of the realm of possibility.
Commence attack objective B.
I don't really see them doing that specifically, though. But
Hello.
it's possible for them to do.
Group up here. Hello there. Hello.
Additional support would be appreciated. I need to get back in there. Mobility increased.
I don't have a good guitar controller though, so I couldn't just break that out and roll with it. Imagine having to break out a guitar controller for Overwatch. Amazing. I could see the workshop being expanded on significantly with Overwatch 2 as well. With the talent system they're introducing, they could definitely expand on that in the workshop system to allow people to do those kind of changes themselves.
Taking off.
So not only will it be more PvE, 2 significant PvE modes, not only will we get expanded improved PvP, but we'll also get expanded improved workshop modes as well, so it will work great for everyone really. Thanks very much, Max, for the 120 biddies. So yeah, Overwatch 2 is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of Overwatch 1 in every conceivable way.
Neural adaptation complete.
Which is going to be very nice. And if they are planning to do a release in November or December this year, then they should start doing some form of public or private testing. Public or semi-public, should I say. Fairly soon, within the next few months. Right, a closed beta should start relatively soon, if I had to guess. It depends on how much they want to do it. They have already got an established game. A lot of the game systems don't need to be tested because they already exist. But they are making a substantial increase on the base amount of content, so that will be tested. There go. This might be the thing that said it would arrive in the middle of July. Getting XP in workshops would be a bad idea, because people would exploit that to no end, to the point where they'd have to take it out again. when you think of an idea, think of how people could abuse it. And abusing XP in workshops would happen immediately, with no delay. Yeah, that's the thing it said would take until the middle of July to arrive. It arrived 2 months early. Too early, don't want it. Alright, cool.
Personality synchronization 100%. Good to be back.
Rick and Morty Season 4. I think I've already seen all of it, not sure. That'll stand.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Going free.
I don't think Echo's work will work in the PV modes that we have already. I think what I'll probably do is allow you to duplicate enemy bots or enemies and use their abilities. Which sounds pretty OP, and it is, because PvE in general will be overpowered versions of the heroes we know and love, right? So why not just continue that with Echo's ult? You want to turn into that heavy from Talon? Why not? You know. $55 gigs in 45 minutes. Sounds like a decent speed. I'd be happy with that kind of download speed. I wouldn't be disappointed. I wouldn't be super amazed. It'd be alright. Just be like, yeah, cool. That was done quick.
Adjusting angle of attack.
Didn't I download Doom Eternal pretty quick? And that was about that kind of size.
Sniper, don't get caught.
I did it in what, an hour? Maybe 2? Or was it 4? I forget.
안녕.
Don't remember. It might have been 2 hours.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Rendezvous at my position.
Yeah, cool.
Hi.
Group up at my position.
No, I managed to play it the same day.
Restoring health system.
I believe.
안녕.
2 new skins. They look good. I'm happy about the Ash skin. What I said they should do, they did do, so that's good.
Switching back to combat mode.
Don't really need instructions for something as simple as that.
Executing flight maneuvers.
Yeah, it's not up to your mom. It's up to you. She might want that for you, but it's not up to her. It's up to you. Just forcing someone into something like that never goes well.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
I need a health restore.
It's your life, you get to decide. There's Walrus just missing the point entirely of what we're talking about.
Restoring health systems.
What do you mean gonna become gay? He already is.
Para reporting.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Neural adaptation complete.
So you're telling us you have a crush on a girl?
Activating self-destruct sequence.
Not directly. What does that mean? What does not directly mean?
Regeneration complete. Switching back to combat mode.
I think she's cute, that's all.
Ability increased.
The payload is approaching its destination.
So you wouldn't consider a relationship with her? What? Wow, that didn't take you long, G.
Personne n'est...
Oh, Jaffa cakes.
Play of the game.
Been known to eat entire packs of Jaffa cakes before in one setting.
Hide from my sight.
They're really good. But wouldn't you want to do that stuff too? If you really liked her? Because if you hate that stuff about relationships, maybe they're not for you. You have to bear that in mind. Some people are just not built for relationships. And some of those people force themselves into relationships anyway. And then it never works out. Because they're just not made for them.
Traveling to route 6. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
Wow, Walrus. Wow. Alright.
Personality synchronization 100%.
Why didn't you establish any communication outside of the game?
Violence always be the solution.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
You can keep up with me.
If you want to learn the best ways of leveling, look up my XP guide
All systems
on YouTube. Exclamation mark EXP for the link. If you want a quick link there. There you go.
winky face, winky face.
Right. Right. So you accidentally ghosted him, is what you're saying? Good job. Good job. So, I think accidental ghosting is something that happens a lot to people on the spectrum. They don't mean to do it, it just happens. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to maintain contact without extensive propinquity. There's a word for you. Propinquity is important for maintaining relationships, especially for people on the spectrum. So propinquity is a word that describes physical closeness, right? Of course, it can apply to virtual closeness as well, but basically, the more time you spend with someone, the closer you are to them emotionally, right? The closer you'll regard them as friends and potentially more, right? So the more time you spend with someone, the better. And the reverse is also true, where the less time you spend with someone, the further apart you are emotionally from each other, right? Your relationship drifts apart and ends up fading into nothingness, right? Now that tends to happen a lot faster with people on the spectrum, in my experience. My favorite hero is Mei. So it's a lot easier for to maintain relationships with people you encounter on a regular basis, right, than people you don't. And that's true for anyone, but is especially true for people that struggle with communication in various ways, shapes and forms, right? Because you can spend time with someone without saying anything, and that's fine, right? That counts towards propinquity. But if you don't actually share experiences, share tasks, share experiences, right? Things you do together, if you don't do that at all, then all you've got left is the communication part, which then autistic spectrum people will struggle with a lot. So it's tough. It's not easy. If you wanted to track him down, you probably could, of course. It might be difficult. I've tried that kind of thing in the past, and I haven't always succeeded. In fact, most of the time I failed at that kind of task, trying to track someone down from my past. I'm not as good as some people I know at tracking people down on the internet.
60 seconds remaining.
Heroes never
Yeah.
die.
Wow. I don't think I really remember anyone from primary school except one or two people. I couldn't even tell you what their names were. So I would have no idea how to track anyone down, and I don't really have any interest to either. So. Yeah.
That was a learning experience.
I did have a yearbook which I did actually scan into my computer, but the problem is that file was lost when a hard drive died, and I don't know where the actual yearbook is. Yeah, it's probably stored somewhere, yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of fuss, I guess. You're just in that kind of mood. Is Alan good at tracking people down over the internet? I don't think so. I don't know though. I've never had to ask him to do that, or known him to need to do that. I know Oopsie Poosey Kill Squid. He's very good at it. Somewhat skilled at it. Some would say worryingly so, but I don't know. I don't know how he's gained this skill or whether he practices it on a regular basis. But yeah.
Back online.
Mm.
60 seconds.
Lifting off.
You know, I was in an interesting place at my school. I tended to be targeted by bullies quite a lot, but I was also the kind of person who didn't really care. I didn't let it bother me. Kind of just got on with it, you know. I knew I was weird, and I just embraced it. If they bullied me for it, oh well. Fine. I had no problem grassing them up to the teachers. They're bad to me, I tell on them. I was probably weirder than I naturally would be because I embraced my weirdness and was weird on purpose just to amuse people because it amused me. So why not, you know? Yeah, and I'm still like that.
System reboot complete.
I think the best thing you can do, if someone's picking on you for something, embrace it. Because as soon as you start using it as armor, they can't use it as a sword. Right? You've robbed them of their weapon. It works incredibly well.
I need to get back in there. That would help.
It is interesting how different cultures vary in certain regards like that. Whoa! Oh man.
Learning from that one.
Heroes never die.
Jaffa cake. Oh, okay. Well, I'll just use my ult. Ismael! I killed two of them with my minefield. It's not your field, it's minefield. Oh. Oh, it's a very long beam. Long in time.
Victory.
Bum, 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 bum. Wow. Knife. Once a month. So people who want to carry stuff they shouldn't will only ever carry it once a month. Yeah, we can do a roll swap. The group size has shrunk dramatically. Alright, see you later, Axel. Probably. Why is it only probably, don't you know? It should be fairly obvious if there are or not. I think there are a lot of irresponsible parents out there that will not take care in what they feed their kids, and they end up feeding their kids too much, and then they get fat. And that doesn't put them down a very good path in life. Because once you get down that path, it's difficult to get back. Some people do, some people never do, right? The parents that overfeed their kids, a lot of the time, are setting them up down a path of overeating for the rest of their life, which is not only irresponsible on part of the parent, but it's incredibly counterproductive. Because if you want the best for your kid, you should not make them so fat they have health problems for the rest of their life. It's not really a good idea. Yeah, Alan has been struggling with his weight for a long time, but nowhere near as much as his dad. And yeah, his dad's paying the price right now, recently, in a lot of different ways. So, I had a good chat with Alan yesterday about it. And he's hopeful. He's positive about it. He reckons his dad will pull through. So. Hey, Williardo. My dad has been overweight for most of his life, but not extremely. He's tend to have had a bit of a belly. That's pretty much as far as he's ever gone, really. So probably a few stone heavier than he should be. A stone is 14 pounds if you're not English, right? So. That's not his name, Ulrich. And weight is one of those things that's easier to control than a lot of people would like you to think. It's simple mathematics, really. If you ingest more energy than you're expending, you gain. And if you're expending more than you ingest, you lose. Do that consistently enough and you'll be at whatever weight you want to be. It's as simple as that. It's basic physics, right? You can't just break the laws of physics. So you've got a choice. If you're heavier than you want to be and you want to lose weight, there are two main things you can control. The amount of energy that goes in and the amount of energy that's expended. So that's the quantity of food you eat every day and the amount of exercise you get every day. Now, the most important aspect of that is the actual intake, because your body will expend energy whether you exercise or not. In fact, most of the energy your body will expend every day is through your metabolism. Exercise by itself actually accounts for about 30%. I think it's around about 30% of the energy you use every day is the amount of exercise you get. So the majority of your control when it comes to your weight is what you eat. So if you want to reduce the amount of calories, if you want to create a calorie deficit, the easiest way is just to eat less.
Nothing to worry about, unless there's something to worry about.
So calorie counting is a very powerful tool in that, right? To understand how many calories you're putting into your body and estimating how many calories you burn each day will allow you to control that much better than just guessing. Of course, that's much easier if you are in full control over what you eat than if you're a kid just being given food every day. But it's always a possibility that you could discuss, if you're not in control, with the person that is in control of your food to feed you less or change how they do it. There are a lot of companies trying to make a lot of money out of trying to misinform people on how to lose weight. They talk about right foods and wrong foods and when and where to eat things and all that kind of nonsense. But in the end, it comes down to calories in versus calories out. Which means if you want, you could lose weight on a diet completely consisting of chocolate. You could do that, in theory, if you wanted.
Objective lost.
Why are you talking like that, Clupsy? Come on.
Heroes never die. Helden sterben nicht.
Yeah, Payday 2 is decent. Well, here's the thing, Clapsy, here's the thing. The other day, I got a massive spike of viewership, and then you suddenly started claiming you didn't bot the viewers. Out of nowhere. So, one, why did you suddenly claim to not have botted the viewers when nobody was saying anything about that? And why you specifically?
Enemy is reviving.
Now, one possible explanation of that is that you did do it and you were trying to make people think you didn't do it, but in a way that made you look very suspicious. Right?
Defeat.
Now, in a scenario where you didn't do that, how would you explain suddenly blurting out that you didn't bot the viewers? Seems very suspicious to me. Yeah, look how many limbs I got. Wow. Finally, bronze. Bronze 1 star. You were bronze 0 stars before. Yeah, but not sudden spikes like that, Clapsy. At the same time that you're claiming you didn't bot them, you know? Yeah, increasing your natural metabolism rate does help to burn more calories, yes. Muscle building is especially good for calorie burning, since it takes a lot of calories to build muscle. So even basic weight training can definitely help in terms of increasing your calorie burn rate, if you want to go that route. But generally, learning to eat healthily is going to help you for your entire life. So it's best just to do that as best you can, with a bit of exercise on the side if you feel like your general fitness level needs improving. Dun, dun. And view botting is generally used via a website, a third-party service. And most of the time a paid service, because why do it for free when you can charge money for it? Especially when it costs you money to do it, right? These services will be running hardware that costs them money to maintain, so they're gonna need some money for that. Ugh. Of course, view botting is never really worth it, because not only is it against Twitch terms of service and get you banned, they're not real people. If your stream isn't worth 50 people watching, then the number of people watching saying 50 isn't going to help you get any more viewers. Because if you're not worth watching, people will find out soon enough. That's not very high, is it? Hacks tend to be very expensive from the curiosity research I've done in the past and videos I've watched on the subject. They tend to charge a lot of money for those kind of services. Like a ridiculous amount of money. Because, yeah, I'm not dumb enough to cheat on a game I actually like to play. Because the consequences could be permanent and undesirable. I don't want my account to get banned. And it's not fair to cheat. So I wouldn't want a player on the other team to cheat against me and just wreck me because they're using a program that they shouldn't be using in the first place. So I'm not going to do that to anyone else either. It cheapens the experience and ends up just destroying the fun of the game entirely after a while. So not only have I, let's say in theory I did it, not only have I wasted money, I've wasted time, and I've made other players' experience actively worse. It's generally not a good idea. You hacked in Minecraft when you were 11 years old. I was watching some videos a few weeks ago, I think, of a server admin going around banning cheaters using like X-ray cheats and stuff, trying to find other players' bases and raiding them. And at one point, he pretended to be a normal guy, just running around with a couple guys he suspected were cheating. And he tried to ask them, when he revealed himself to be the admin, he tried to figure out from them why they cheated. He tried to convince them not to do it again, right?
Good to be back.
They didn't really have a good excuse as to why they were cheating. We're just kind of doing it because, you know, why not?
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
And they said they wouldn't do it again, but they probably went to another server and continued anyway. So.
Let's shoot for a new high score.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
I don't remember Venom, which channel it was. But he was having a lot of fun with these cheaters, where he would like copy an underground room and keep pasting it and undoing to try and catch these cheaters, seeing the rooms pop out of thin air and try to get all the loot inside, and then they'd disappear and they'd be like, what? Where did it go? And then he'd paste it somewhere else and they'd go for that. All underground, right? Unable to actually see the rooms without cheats. Oh, it's quite funny. He just kept messing with them.
Lifting off.
I think one of the videos where he used like invisible barrier blocks coupled with a lava trap, so people would try to jump into the room to get the treasure and just fall into lava. Ooh, nice. Destroyed at spawn. I know, I killed myself.
adaptation complete. Executing flight maneuvers. Enemy sniper.
Goodbye. Got him again.
Taking off.
Hold on. Oh. Not bullying the widow. No. She's on the other team. It's my job.
Repairing internal circuitry.
Oh, that's the widow. Oh, come back. Oh, come back. Didn't even need to kill her that time. Did it for me. Scared her off the map. That panic though, that was amazing. Oh no. Is that them again? Yeah, I think it is. Change to soldier.
Regeneration complete. Switching back to
Maybe to
combat
deal
mode.
with me specifically. Mini pizzas. Why wouldn't you make mini pizzas?
Adjusting angle of attack.
Mum will occasionally create pizza crumpets. It's basically just pizza, but instead of the pizza base, you just use crumpets.
60 seconds.
Very nice.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Soldier 76. I've got you in my sights. Resistance neutralized. Personality again surviving. White routine activated.
Oops. Oh well.
Join me.
That was a learning experience.
That's like a pizza cone. Okay. Nice.
Taking off.
Hello.
Mark on my
Nope.
target.
He killed himself. And the Mercy tried to res him. She didn't survive.
I am ready to unleash coalescence.
Just having a bad time overall there.
Executing flight maneuvers.
Oh. Ooh. In Korea, the Domino's celebrated 30 years of Domino's in Korea. And guess what they did?
Regeneration complete. Switching back to combat mode.
They had a promotion where you get free pizza, I guess. If you buy a pizza, you get a free pizza. Or maybe 2 free pizzas. A special kind of pizza, I don't know. 30 different cheeses on pizza. Oh. There's a lot of different kinds of cheese. Oh no! Oops, daisy.
System reboot complete.
Goat's cheese is pretty good, actually.
Mobility increased.
Not my favourite kind of cheese, but definitely not my least favourite either. Da-na-na-na. Ooh, got him again.
60 seconds.
The thing is, if you put 30 different types of cheese on a pizza, there's very little cheese of each individual cheese, right? Unless you've got really thick cheese. There's going to be very, very little of each type. So it's kind of just all going to mush together and be some kind of Franken cheese that tastes as like a mixture of all the different cheese, which kind of misses the point a bit. Right. Ooh, dead bay. Get him, yeah. Wasted ult. Let's see if I can. Whee! Oh!
Victory.
Get him. Yeah. Alright, I can have a look at that video later.
Full speed. Engaging. Rolling out.
Oh, I see. Okay. It's a little stand thing for attaching a camera to. Just trying to figure out how it works. Shorter than I would have liked. I'm sure I'll figure out a solution. I need to go pee. I'll let the queue go while I do that. Won't be long. Okie doke. They're still in the queue. I might buy myself now.
Welcome to Hollywood. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Level 6, level 4, level 21, level 10, level... Let's not do that, please.
Personality synchronization 100%. Good to be back. Executing flight maneuvers.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
It'll be someone finding a way to exploit the code. Some weird exploit that Twitch never intended, which will get patched out pretty quick. If people are spamming it, like in all the big streamers chat, it'll get noticed fast and they'll patch it quickly. So it's likely to only occur for a few days at the most. Alan would probably be able to explain how that kind of thing works a lot better than I could. It's likely to be some kind of code injection. So they're using a quirk of the Twitch chat that would allow certain code to be inputted into the Twitch chat and be interpreted as code and not just text. It's something like that. Now it's likely that Twitch tried every which way they tried to prevent that, but someone else managed to find a way around their protections. But seeing as it's being highlighted in a very obvious and unignorable way, then it's likely to be fixed just as quickly. But yeah, it's likely to be patched within days, if not hours. If it's a very new thing. Now that it's been highlighted to obviously as a potential exploit of the code. Not destroyed Diva with her own Diva bomb. No one had that yesterday. Okay. The biggest streamers usually have Twitch staff hanging out in their stream, so yeah, it's a very quick way of patching an exploit with the chat if you exploit it like that.
System reboot complete.
It's a very safe for work picture, isn't it? It's lucky they didn't do it with something less safe for work anyway.
Stabilizing system core.
Though if they don't fix it soon, that might happen. And I'm sure Twitch are very aware of that problem. Someone with more notorious aspirations may decide to use it for more nefarious purposes.
Lifting off.
Nothing inherently wrong with being a furry.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Boosting up.
I don't think voice chat in games are bad. But voice chat is used for bad things. But so is everything else. If you create a public system, some people will use it for bad stuff. That's just inherent. That's a human thing, not any specific system thing, right? People will be jerks. No matter where they are or what they're doing. Some people will just be jerks. Right.
System reboot complete. Adjusting angle of attack.
And that problem is not solved through the internet. It's amplified. It's magnified. It's made more of a problem because of the nature of the internet makes anonymity much more easy, much more accessible. You can get away with a lot more on the internet than you'd be able to get away with in person. And so it happens more.
Play of the game.
Touch from afar.
Hey, 81. Greetings. So the latest patch for Terraria is only half an hour away. So that's exciting for the people who like that game. It's the final major patch. There will be more minor patches to fix issues and add a few more items here and there. But it's the last big patch. Yep, you can start dying all over again tomorrow, Clapsy. Yes. Since we will be playing on master mode, because you didn't die enough, you can die even faster. Should be good. Hi, Chris. Shiv time. I will set up a death counter, yes. I'll have to have a dedicated button for you, Clapsy, every single time you die, and push it. Push it. Keep pushing it. Yeah, it's up to him. Yes. And master mode is gonna hurt a lot. Expert mode already hurts a lot. Master mode, yeah, that's gonna be pretty nasty. Yeah, because the logo part is closer to the green screen color than the rest of the hoodie, so yeah, it does that. Yeah, the 4 people will make the bosses much spongier, and when it comes to master mode, they'll be hitting massively hard too. So they'll have massive amounts of health and hit really hard. Will we get one shot by green slimes? Lol. Guess we'll find out, won't we? You will. You will die a lot. Yes. Spend like a month on Eye of Cthulhu. Maybe. I feel like we should do a Crimson World, because last time we did a Corruption World. Crimson is cancer. Excellent. So I'll do Crimson then. You know, it's variety. Why don't you like Crimson? What's wrong with it?
Now arriving at Lijiang Tower. Prepare for battle.
But why?
Select your hero.
Explain yourself. Moldy purple. Thanks for the bit, Aidzo.
Personality synchronization 100%.
Yeah, the boss is easy enough though. Pretty easy boss. Yeah, the brain of Cthulhu is the Crimson boss.
5, 4, 3.
And I think one of the pets you get from the Crimson is just a heart that just bounces along behind you. Just a still beating heart. It just spurts a little bit of blood every time it bounces. Yeah, the scarf is good. It is.
Boosting up.
We could do random, and then the game will decide whether we get corruption or crimson. That's a fair way of doing it, I suppose. Why would you quit immediately if it's crimson, dude? Come on. That's one aspect of the game. Just one. You still got the rest of it.
Neural adaptation complete.
One of the things I do wonder, as you wondered, is the dupe glitch still in the game or not? Crimson is easier to navigate than corruption. Did they fix the bug already?
Best round lost.
Moving up.
Score 0-1.
That was quick.
Shoot for a new high score.
Yeah, it's not working anymore. Impressive.
Hi.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 2. Capture
Ability increased.
Eh. I'll time you out anyway. For trying to do it again.
Lifting off. System reboot.
Yeah, I'm sure someone on the Twitch team understood what bug they were exploiting there and just managed to fix it pretty quick. I suspect what it had to do with was how emotes worked, and they were exploiting a bug with the directory that the emotes were stored in and ended up accessing a file that was never meant to be part of the emote system in the first place. Or basically an uncompressed emote file I managed to access through an exploit in the code. Now, what probably... what that may well be is an uncompressed image of someone's emote for their Twitch channel, which they keep in a separate folder to the main emote folder, and someone managed to just find the code for it, just access it through the emote system. It's a bit weird. And one way of fixing that easily, or at least a temporary fix, would be just to move or rename the file that's being accessed, and then implement a slower fix to make it permanently unavailable after that.
All systems checked out.
Oh man. Now you could quite easily brute force that by just having a bot go through and iterate the number until it found something that worked. A database of all old emotes. Okay. So as it was a curated list, it's unlikely to have anything not safe for work in there, I guess. Oh, big rip. They wiped us out. Big rip. There were a lot of not safe for work.
Play of the game.
Really? Yeah, I can inviv you. It may only be one game though. Looking at the time, but we'll see. It's about €10. £8 is about €10. €9-10, something like that. So yeah, 10 minutes ago, the official Terraria Twitter account said, Journey's End is only 30 minutes away. Yeah. So yeah, 6 o'clock. Kinda. When did Terraria originally come out? 16th of May, 2011. Literally 9 years ago today. So yeah, this 16th of May was chosen for a reason. Yep, it's Terraria's birthday. Indeed. Sure, I can invite you. What about Tierria? Yeah. Tierria. Yeah. .2D Minecraft. That's very good.
Welcome to Blizzard World.
Took a screenshot of that one. Add it to your collection. Yeah. Your juicy collection.
Build 'em up, bingo! There's no prize for coming in second. Bingo!
Yeah, no.
Back in the fight.
You need to make a new folder called Dave Augasim Face.
Warp across the stars.
I foresee great things for you.
Is there a lot of typos on your PC? Or do you take more time with your file system than you do in Twitch chat?
Hey. Bingo!
Thanks. You never checked. So you've never ever looked at the name of a folder before
Time to roll up my sleeves.
that you created in the past. Is that what you're saying? What's the idea?
Let's get this.
Yeah, but spelling areas are very easy to spot because they tend to stick out like a sore thumb.
Now entering King's Row. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
What kind of emote though? Because I don't have any slots for any regular Twitch emotes.
100%. Good to be back.
Quit screwing around and get ready to move.
You should be at peak performance level.
Take one out there. Nope.
Attackers incoming.
That would break the theme.
Where does it
Not gonna do
a
that.
moment to enjoy some peace and quiet. Probably just a moment.
Paid good money for those May emotes. Oh, good. Hello.
Hey there.
You needed a doctor? Hello.
Hello.
I have my eye on you.
5, 4, 3.
Yeah, people don't use it because it's a tier 3 emote.
Attackers incoming. Defend
And no one subscribed to tier 3. So no one has it. Apart from me. Because I'm the streamer and I get all the emotes by default.
Repairing internal circuitry.
No, I wouldn't take that one out. That's good. If I don't, I wouldn't take any of them out, as I said. If I don't stream for like 2 years, do I keep the emotes? No idea. Not gonna try. It's likely that there are some review processes that will go through titles that have been inactive for a certain amount of time and remove some of the privileges they've earned from streaming in the past, just to save on server capacity and that sort of thing. But I don't know. Because Twitch is owned by the richest corporation in the world, I doubt it really matters to their bottom line whether they do that stuff or not. Doesn't really make any difference. I think I remember hearing that Google backs everything up like 13 or 15 or 17 times. Everything. And that takes a lot of infrastructure and money to do. So if they can do that, Amazon can probably not care about deleting emotes that aren't used anymore. It's just a drop in the bucket of the ocean, you know?
Restoring health systems.
You realise that emotes submitted by affiliates have to go through a manual review process, right?
Adjusting angle of attack.
A Twitch staff member actually has to look at every single emote that passes through to check whether they're okay or not. Only partners get the privilege of not having their emotes checked before being approved. Partner emotes are automatically approved, and then those approvals can be appealed by people who want to report them as being a bit dodgy. And if you worked at Twitch and let borderline pornographic emotes through, you'd be fired pretty quick.
Targets down.
And then all the emotes you approved would then have to be re-reviewed. So your efforts would be completely in vain.
on that one. Lifting off.
Objective lost.
Ow! That was my face. Yeah, I think she was talking about taking a little break, and then she did that and got banned for less than 24 hours. I think it was in the end. Honestly.
Stabilizing system core.
Yeah, there's clearly a conflict of interest there. In no scenario should there be anyone working for Twitch that makes decisions based on a streamer that they're in a relationship with. They should have no power over those decisions, right? Because that's a clear conflict of interest. No, it's simple common sense, right? Simple common sense. Jeff Bezos. No. Oh dear. Skill orb.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Reinhardt.
This is why artificial intelligence will end up being our masters in the end, because humans simply can't make rational, sensible decisions by themselves if left alone too long. Just doesn't work. We're too dumb. We're too dumb as a species to exist for too much longer without help. just too dumb.
Repairing internal circuitry.
Heroes never die.
We make stupid decisions over and over and over and over and over again till things critically fail. It happens. It does happen. It has happened many times throughout human history. Someone makes a stupid decision and the consequences end up being catastrophic for whatever it was they were involved with.
Took a second.
And in these days of worldwide cooperation and consequence, in the end, if left to our own devices, we're going to end up at severe risk of destroying the entire human race. Now, I don't think it will happen in the end, because we'll come up with a solution which may end up being having some kind of artificial intelligence trying to keep us from destroying ourselves the best it can. Because, yeah, I don't trust the human race to stay alive. We're gonna need a parent to tell us no sometimes. And since we can't do that effectively ourselves, we're gonna have to create something greater than ourselves in order to actually survive. And the only way of doing that is through a self-learning AI that becomes super intelligent. Which, theoretically, we're smart enough to make. We'll see though. I think that won't happen until we end up cracking graphene processing. Graphene technology is probably the best way forward in terms of creating a super intelligence, because that's super powerful. Graphene processing technology, right? A graphene CPU can be up to like 100 times more powerful than a traditional silicon one. So if we've got pretty smart AIs already that do all kinds of interesting stuff, imagine one 100 times as powerful, you know? CPUs are made with silicon. Silicon, not copper. It's Din-Din's time, yeah. But I haven't got my Din-Dins at the moment. We can dabble in a bit of 2v2 while I wait for my Din-Dins. My Din-Dins may be here in like 30 seconds. But we can start.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I reckon the human race will need some kind of AI oversight because we're dumbasses as a species. We make stupid decisions. And we need someone to check our work to make sure we're not being stupid. Which most of the time we will be. So, yeah, if we're smart about our stupidity, we can survive.
Score 0-1.
We're all soldiers
3, 2, 1.
Silicon photonics. Photonics. Silicon photonics. Okay. I'll look at that. But graphene processors are extremely promising as well. If you haven't looked at those, have a look at those. It's like ridiculous.
Oh.
Score 1-1.
Your safety is my primary concern.
1. Standing ground golden.
Oh. Okay. It's just thee and me. Yeah, that didn't quite work.
Score 2.
Is that Din-Dins?
The true enemy.
Looks like Din-Dins.
1.
Din-Dins. Okay.
Fences in place.
Score
Good.
3.
I'm a one-man apocalypse.
1.
The thing is, light and electricity travel at the same speed, essentially. Depending on what medium you're using to transfer the electricity. But generally, there is very little speed difference between the two. So if you're using light, there has to be a good reason why you're using light over electricity. Right.
Score 4-1. 3,
Which is why when playing with people across the world, your latency is actually pretty low, right? Sure, if you purely, all you did was shine a beam around the Earth, it could go around the Earth 8 times within a second. But if you divide 1,000 by 8, what you get is like 120, 113 or something, right? It's not a huge amount of time. But if you consider the roundabout route signals take around the internet, it's only a doubling of that to get all the way around to the other side. So it's pretty efficient. Ooh, a rainbow box. Anyway, I will be back after I've eaten my din-dins, and then we'll do some chaos.